Carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evan, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined by three of my good friends tonight. Alan Beal, the CEO of Armed Forces Brewing Company. Ken Nuss, who's a shareholder and an advisor and a spokesperson for Armed Forces Brewing Company. Our in-house subject matter expert when it comes to intel, who's been very busy, by the way, digging up lots of dirt on the woke mob who's targeted Alan's company. Alan, you've been on the podcast, as has Ken, but I'd like both of you to reintroduce yourselves to our audience. So we'll start with you, Alan.
Yeah. Hey, Chris and S2 and Ken, thanks for having me on. Excited to be here. Alan Beal, CEO, Armed Forces Brewing Company, located in Norfolk, Virginia, but we are closing the facility up, selling it, and moving to a more business-friendly and red state, if you will. And I guess we're going to talk a little bit about the story and what's been going on with the company, and we've come up against this opposition group.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, both you and Ken, because what's happened to your company is happening to companies across the country, but they're scared to stand up and say something. I even had people, on our team say, "Are you sure you want to wade into this?" Meaning me. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because we can't sweep the stuff under the carpet and expect it to get fixed. So Ken Nuss is super active on fixing this kind of stuff that's wrong with our country. He's involved in so many things. But Ken, go ahead and reintroduce yourself as well, please.
So it's kind of funny. My name is Ken Nuss. I'm from northern New Jersey. Good old blue New Jersey. By trade, I'm a title insurance agent, and everyone kind of jokes at that because I have my fingers in a lot of, I guess, political, I don't even know what to say. You'll learn that Alan and I met, I think it was through LinkedIn, right? We met on LinkedIn, and, I ended up, I guess we can start here. I was asked to help with the Border 911 event, which took place a year ago, April 4th. And I'll let Alan tell the story of how this came about. But working with Tom Homan and that entire team, I knew we were doing this event in Mar-a-Lago. We were going to be planning it. And the execution time was about 6 weeks that we had to pull this off. And Alan, do you want to pick it up from there? Because I think the relationships that started from this moment really carried us through the past 14, 15 months, 14, 15 months. So go ahead.
Yeah, it was kind of odd how we met, actually. we met through LinkedIn and had exchanged some contact info, I think.
Is that like a code word for match.com or something?
It's how we say it, how we're saving our country. Yep, we use LinkedIn.
Oh, man.
They're not going to like that.
And I think we both knew we were both, patriots and loved America and our veterans and military and first responders. And I'm rather vocal out there, especially on LinkedIn. I didn't serve in the military, but come from a huge military family and just have been a veteran advocate my entire life. But with the brewing company, my kind of maybe a little bit well known since we make pretty good beer. But I was sitting in the office with my other team members, one of them a veteran, and we just got we were really upset, if you will, at the billions and billions of dollars we were spending on illegal immigration while we have 40,000 homeless veterans, and had actually lost a couple friends in our circle of people, especially a couple Navy SEALs that had committed suicide. And we were sitting down just talking, and we were like, man, what's going on with the border? We're spending so much money there. And of course, back then it was a big topic, you guys. And we're thinking, let's go down to the border. Let's take some beer down there and build a beer wall, and do a little protest. And guys, I'm not lying. Ken Nuss called right during that conversation, because I was even running to my office out of my chief brewing officer's office and chief marketing guy's office to my office to talk to Ken, going, Ken, we were just talking about that.
Yeah. So what happened was the reason why we were having the fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago, which Chris, was to help raise money for the Border 911 team so they could travel around the U.S. and educate people about what was actually going on. So that was the purpose of the event, was to help bring awareness of what was going on at the border. And Alan had told me that they were thinking about building a border wall of beer. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, well, let's see if we can tie this in. And what do you think about if we built a mini border wall at Mar-a-Lago? Well, first we were going to build the border wall, I think, on down there and then go to Mar-a-Lago because of the timing. But we couldn't pull off the initial plan of building the border wall in Eagle Pass first. We didn't have the time for the logistics. So we're like, let's build a little mini border wall at Mar-a-Lago. We can use it as like a backdrop, let people take pictures by it. And then that would give us time to plan an appropriate time to bring Armed Forces Brewing Company and the beer down to Eagle Pass. At the same time, working with the America Project, we wanted to really, beef up this whole process, this education process. So that's how I guess we all came together with Armed Forces Brewing Company and the America Project. And Alan, why don't you talk about that? Because that's really what brought us to all of the education that we did and the outreach to all of the first responders. Which again, nobody gets credit for it, but let's talk.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the other reason for doing this too is the first responders, law enforcement, Border Patrol had just taken a beating for years with the defund the police and all the ridiculous crap that was going on at the border. Remember the Border Patrol agents that were falsely accused of whipping with their horse reins? Remember that joke? And it all just came together, and before you know it, Ken, we're planning to go do it at Mar-a-Lago at an event there. And then go down to Eagle Pass to feed, about, God, what was it, 850 Texas National Guard troops, Border Patrol agents, and sheriff's deputies, and go down there and observe what's actually going on down the border and talk to those who are down there enforcing the border and seeing what was going on down there. Boy, what we found was shocking. To be able to see it yourself.
We went to a place called the Pecan Orchard, and we had full access to the border. We literally drove along the fence. We saw Border Patrol. I'm going to try while Alan's talking. I'm going to try and text you a picture, Chris, so you can put up there of the border wall. But go ahead, Alan.
We got down there to the pecan farm and went directly over there to the border fence right there along the Rio Grande, and you could even see the houses across the Rio Grande where the cartels were hanging out, and Border Patrol agents on the left side. Then you had Border Patrol agents and National Guard on the other side in trucks that were kind of going back and forth. But there was a division down there. You had state National Guard guys there, and you had federalized National Guard guys there. And one of the federalized National Guard guy, he was from New Jersey too, I think, had driven up to us, asked, just wanting us to identify ourselves and who we were. You could just tell he hadn't been home in 6 months to see his wife and kid. They were just exhausted down there. You could just tell. And we had a great conversation with him. I mean, it looked like the Holocaust down there, you guys. There were piles of clothing. There were piles of kids' shoes. There was clothes over the barbed wire. There were Plan B packets laying on the ground. There were pill bottles of prescription antihistamine laying there, Mexican prescriptions that they give the kids to knock them out, I guess, or something like that when they go, take them across the water and on a long journey like that. So it was, wow.
I thought we needed new legislation to clean up the border.
Big time.
Yeah. So where we're going with this was that was our first event where we were able to, talk about the border and then go out and feed first responders and say thank you for what you're doing. We have your back. And like Alan said, the despair in these border patrols, the faces, you could just see it. And then to know that, a simple $15 meal, like it lightened everybody's mood. It was so at that point it was like, I think even Winsome wasn't Winsome at that.
Yeah, remember we went to Base Camp Charlie and they set up this in the mess hall there. They had a DJ in there, and we had the food in there, the barbecue from that restaurant in Eagle Pass. Serena's place. And they were just so excited that somebody came down to see them and tell them.
If you look at this picture, this is the old Abbott wall. It's not as high as the Trump wall. And literally the people that own it had to deal with it being open. So the concept here was, Alan drove down the beer in a refrigerator truck, and we quickly put this together. And, it was really like to say, hey, even the beer companies know we need a border wall. You notice Jason Jones is in that picture from Newsmax. He actually did a broadcast from right in front of that for us. But this is the team that we pretty much traveled throughout the U.S. With for the balance of the, from what was that, May through October.
April.
We went to multiple cities across the U.S. on the border, and every time we went there, not only did we do a press conference with the elected officials, we always went out a few days early, logistically called all the local departments that were in and around the where we were, and we fed them. We just went out to say thank you from us, and most of the places it was received well. And it's not like we were doing this for any publicity. So, we just kept doing it, but we didn't realize how much this was fueling people back home. And that's kind of, I guess, how we're going to roll into this. But
that sets the context for our audience to understand that through the course of last year, both of you did a lot of work to make sure that Trump was reelected and brought a lot of attention to things like the border that the legacy media was trying to, say wasn't happening. Right. But the downside to it, which is how we can roll into tonight's story, is that you got a lot of notoriety as a result of it. And then a wise man once told me many years ago, if they're taking shots at you, you're probably doing something right. And it seems like you have a pretty significant collection of Antifa, BLM, far left militant people in your part of Virginia, more than just your part of Virginia. S2's done a ton of digging on this as well. So Ken, I know you're running a little bit short on time, but I want to set the stage here so we can get into some of the information that Alan has sent to us and that S2's also brought to our attention. But before we do that, I want to mention that here in Florida, we don't take too kindly to threats from people that are Antifa, BLM, or whatever the case may be. We had 4 people back to back, 5 if you count the guy in Canada, who were Antifa types and made death threats against our Sheriff Mike Chitwood. And he had every last one of them extradited here to Volusia County. I'll play a little bit of this video only because he actually welcomed them when they got off the plane. So We're going to keep the conversation respectful tonight. As you mentioned beforehand, there's potential, legal action pending. But at the end of the day, if it comes to our attention that anybody on this panel or anybody in our companies is being threatened by anybody, like the death threats that have been levied against Alan, we will use every legal means at our disposal to come after you, both criminal and civil. And it just so happens that my business partner, Todd Callender, is one of the most notorious attorneys in the entire country, and he loves to fight. So just a little bit of this video, and then we'll start bringing up the info that you sent, Alan. Sorry, that video doesn't want to play full screen for some reason. I'm going to fast forward. This is them arresting this guy in New Jersey. This particular guy, by the way, said you need to shoot Sheriff Mike Chitwood in the head. And I'll just quickly go through these instead of doing the video since we're limited on time. This was another one who said he was going to kill Chitwood. And this another one, third man. And this is another one, fourth man, who was a double murderer. And then on top of that, if you look down here, Canadian police arrested a guy and extradited him to us as well. So, Florida is more wild, wild west than Texas is these days. Those are my two home states. And we don't mess around down here with sheriffs like Mike Chitwood and Grady Judd. So introduce who this guy is, Alan, and let's jump into this.
Yeah. So this guy you're seeing at the top there, this guy named Andrew Copland. He is the owner of a for-profit business called Craft Beer Professionals and Secret Hopper. He's in the craft beer industry. He's never run a brewery. And never owned a brewery, and he is embedded in the Hampton Roads community with all the other craft brewers. And the other guy that's with him, lower on the right, there is a Marine, former Lieutenant Colonel, a Marine Corps lawyer named Robert Butch Bracknell. And they're both activists in Hampton Roads, and they're part of this opposition group, and they both spoke against us at the Planning Commission hearing.
What's Hampton Roads? Alan, to give us context on that, what's Hampton Roads?
Sure, Hampton Roads is the Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake. They call it the I think seven counties, whatever, 7 cities, Chesapeake, Hampton,
okay, gotcha.
Norfolk, Portsmouth, and these guys this is an organized group. Andrew Copland's led the way against us, and he's got a mother who works, she's the executive secretary in the Norfolk Commonwealth Attorney's Office, which is a George Soros backed, one of those George Soros backed, attorneys. We'll dive in more to this story, I'm sure, through this. But I wanted to, Chris, if I could, real quick, when Ken and I were down at Eagle Pass, Texas at Base Camp Charlie, feeding 850 Texas National Guard troops, we heard there was a delegation coming in. And one of the people in that delegation was Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears from Virginia. And I happened to get a few minutes with her, and I asked her, we got this opposition group against us in Norfolk. And she said, oh, I've heard, I know who they are. And I go, you do? I think she was a state delegate from Norfolk at one time. She said, we'll have to talk about that more. And I kind of let her know we were a little upset at this opposition group. And it was funny that the weekend we got back from Eagle Pass, Texas, that Sunday, Hampton Roads Republicans or Virginia Beach Republicans had an event at our brewery in the tap room, and Jason Miaris, the Attorney General, was there. Jen Kiggins was there, our Congresswoman Jen Kiggins, and Winsome Sears was there as well. So it's funny how all these people are coming together and sharing information at the same time. We want the state to take a look at this.
Yeah, I was hoping that you could clarify something for me here.
Sure.
So this post from Andrew Copland: brewery fails to foster inclusion. Craft beer is about having conversations. That's one of my favorite things about tap rooms. People with nothing in common besides a pint in their hand can come together over the shared love of beer. Armed Forces Brewing Company will soon be taking over O'Connor Brewing Company in Norfolk, Virginia. This is a few years ago. They are preventing a conversation from even happening. As we strive for a more inclusive beer industry and a better Norfolk, it is important to foster safe and welcoming spaces, not spaces that create fear before the first pint is even poured. This sounds like something straight out of a
book.
Yeah. Give me context. And S2, I want to hear your thoughts on this next. But
Sure.
Alan, what's the context here?
So we had I had contracted a CPA named Maria Pearman. She's on the finance committee with the Brewers Association, which is our national beer industry lobbying group and resource group that we all pay dues to. So I contracted her to do our 5-year pro forma based on operating out of this brewing facility. We had the financials from the previous owner, and we were doing our 5-year pro forma. Anyway, Andrew Copland had, when we announced that we were buying this brewery, Andrew Copland immediately jumped in and started an online petition and website for the public to go and get in touch with the city council to contest us moving to Norfolk for buying this brewery, for operating.
Why?
Well, he reached out to this Maria Pearman and said, "Hey, can you introduce me to Alan Beal?" And Maria said, "Well, sure." So Maria introduced me through email to Andrew Copland, and he pretty much said, "I can make your entrance into Norfolk easier." It was the shakedown is what it was, because he's a consultant. That's what he does with these craft beer breweries. And I told him, "No, thank you. Look forward to seeing you out at the tap room. You're going to be invited to our grand opening. But thanks." And, trying to be as cordial and nice, knowing he was already, out there opposing us. So
on what grounds though? What were his initial grounds to oppose you?
So this goes back to it. Robert O'Neill, who killed bin Laden, is on our advisory board, and he was on the board of directors as well. Rob tweeted out back in, I believe it was around February of 2023 or March of 2023, about the Navy used a drag queen for a recruiting video. And Rob tweeted out how ridiculous it was. I didn't, sign up for this. Russia and China, this doesn't, they're shaking in their bunny slippers because we have this reason Navy's using this drag queen for a recruiting video. And that's what they used, and it just blew up into that we're anti-LGBTQ, we hate gay people, we're racist, and all this other stuff. And they ran with that. Well, it just so happens the drag queen the Navy used is active duty there in Norfolk, Virginia. Wow. So that's how this all came about.
So I've got a couple more questions, but S2, I want to get your take on this of this public smear campaign, because you're knee deep in this stuff all the time. Give me your thoughts on what you found out about Andrew Copland and this type of strategy.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I didn't get the email today soon enough to do any digging on this guy.
Oh, okay. So it's the other
he
one.
just looks like your garden variety useless idiot in a conspiracy.
Fair enough. we'll
go with that.
Yeah, we'll circle back when we get to the other person involved who you did dig up information on. So the other part of this, Chris, do I have a minute to tell you the other part of this? Yep.
Andrew Copland is aligned with the brewery owners in Hampton Roads, but he's really aligned with a guy named Tom Wilder, who is a veteran, and he owns a brewery over in Virginia Beach called Young Veterans Brewing Company. And this Tom Wilder came to the Planning Commission and spoke against our permit process, saying that we stole his brand and we are going to be competition for him and we'll put him out of business and he's not happy we're here. He literally said that. And they're aligned. This Tom Wilder now owns a bar around the corner or down the street from our brewery called the Annex, with this Andrew Copland's brother named Josh Copland, who's a promoter in town. So that all these pieces are coming together. You know, we don't know yet if they were interested in buying the brewery and we ended up buying it out from under them or something. We don't know, but they, you know, there's much more to this puzzle that we're finding out as we get into the investigation.
So, I mean, what conversation did you stop people from having? I don't understand that part of the that he wrote.
I don't either. I don't either. I think they
Keyboard
knew we were
warriors. You know, keyboard warriors.
Keyboard warriors.
You stopped the conversation. You stopped the conversation about them buying the brewery that you got. They were probably hoping to close in on that for pennies on the dollar.
Could be. Could very well be. There was one city councilwoman that ultimately the city council passed the planning commission voted us down like 4-2 against giving us a permit. Then you go to the city council with the planning commission's recommendation. Our lawyer threatened to sue the city council if they didn't pass our permit. This had been a brewery. It was a land use issue is what it was, not what your political beliefs are, or what your values are, you know? And this group got together and they formed anonymous social media accounts as well. And they went out and they called all of our sponsorship partners, like the Norfolk Tides and the Norfolk Admirals hockey team that we had sponsored. They were calling our beer accounts in Hampton Roads.
Alan, tell them about the Toys for Tots.
Yeah. The U.S. Marine Corps' Hampton Roads Toys for Tots program approached us and moved to our brewery because we have this huge facility. We had space for them to store toys. It was a great central drop-off and distribution area as well. It was perfect. And we donated our time, we donated our space, we donated manpower, we donated our lift and all that anything they needed to do their Toys for Tots program. We helped them out with, and this Robert Butch Bracknell from this group filed a formal complaint to the Inspector General of the Marine Corps, trying to sabotage the partnership and trying to get the Marines to pull out. And, you know, we're bigots and racists and homophobic and, you know, yada, yada, yada.
Is this the guy?
That is him.
That's him.
That is him. This guy's a legal consultant for like the Roosevelt Group, some of those Washington, D.C. Government contractors and consultants. I mean, he's up there with some top brass, former military top brass.
You know, I had a feeling that there was a crossover there with Norfolk and with what you're going through and NATO. That Bracknell character served almost 9 years as a NATO international and business law attorney.
He did.
I was wondering if there was a connection there between the NATO HQ that's in Norfolk.
I wouldn't be surprised at anything. I think part of this too is Governor Youngkin, who's obviously a Republican, lured us, recruited us to relocate to Virginia. We work with the Economic Development Partnership in Virginia to get some tax credits. It was a program if we could grow our employee staff to like 47 people, and 70% of those were veterans. If we were employing veterans, of course, we never made it there, and we never collected $1 from the state of Virginia. But this group is putting it out there as if we got $300,000 in Virginia tax money, you know. So
on the Bracknell gentleman here, what was his basis for accusing you and your company of being bigots and, you know, against the LGBTQ community and all that sort of stuff? Where did that come?
The tweets from Rob O'Neill. I mean, that was it. I mean, we employed people from the LGBT community in Norfolk. We had a married lesbian couple who one worked for the Coast Guard and one was working with the Navy, and they were great beer tenders. So it wasn't like we were discriminating against anybody. They ran with this, and they had an agenda, and they wanted us out of there. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to know if that's the basis of him going to the Marine Corps Inspector General. Was that what his argument was? Okay.
Yes, according to them, yes.
And that was
he picked the wrong tree to bark up there, because the Marine Corps basically told the LGBTQ community to go fuck off. Pardon my French.
So just for the record, for you, Alan and Ken, S2 was a Marine, is a Marine. He'll say you never stop being a Marine, so he is a Marine.
I was told they know who he is. He's complained on things before, and his behavior is unbecoming of a Marine. That's what I was told by the other Marines involved, you know.
Well, here's a little clue as to who he is. He's got a BA from the University of North Carolina, which is an Antifa nest.
Very interesting. So his goal was to try and smear you, sever the connection between the Marine Corps and your Toys for Tots program.
Yeah.
Okay. So did he team up with Copland, or are they completely unrelated?
No, they're totally related. They all teamed up together. Our intel shows that they were meeting on Mondays at another brewery called Afterglow there. Andrew Copland, the Zach D. Roberts, who we're going to probably talk about as well, and Butch Bracknell. They know each other very well. There's that one photo there, Chris, where Copland and Bracknell are together. Bracknell's been a guest on the Craft Beer Professionals podcast, whatever.
Okay.
His tutorial videos. We've got a photo of them together. They know each other very well.
Is it in that email that you sent to the shareholders and forwarded?
Yeah. You were at it when you had Copland's picture at the top, and then you had the two of them. Yeah, it's down there, around there. There it is. There they are together on the same Craft Beer Professionals podcast together.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so we're connecting the dots here. They've got anonymous social media accounts. One of them's called Citizens for a Better Norfolk, and that's a group of. So this anonymous account claims of multiple people in this group.
So is it possible that they had no interest in buying this brewery, but they were trying to decrease competition in the marketplace?
I believe that's part of it as well.
I'm just spitballing, because if they wanted to buy the brewery, how long was it for sale?
Well, it wasn't for sale that I knew of. I actually got a hold of the owner back in 2022, and it took a year to come and buy the thing, to work through it. We wanted to do some due diligence and investigation, and I happened to approach him. He had a sexual harassment case against him, and I found that online, I think, and I figure, I wonder if this guy's distressed, because we've been looking in Florida for 2.5 years to find a brewery to buy, and in Texas, and couldn't find one. And this one was for sale. It's a regional sized brewery. We could supply the entire Eastern Seaboard with beer out of this brewing facility. So I had approached him.
Was it operational? Did you approach him? Okay.
Absolutely.
All
yep.
right.
And it had been a brewery for 9 years. So all the equipment was in there. It was turnkey, huge tap room, the whole place.
So this wasn't publicly listed for sale, and that's probably why they made the claim that they were excluded from the conversation. That context seems right.
And we were under a very tight NDA as well. We could not tell anyone that this brewery was for sale at all. And that's been one of their, they didn't reach out to us. They didn't reach out to anyone in the community. And well, that's why we were under an NDA. Nobody found out until the day he announced it. The owner announced it.
Stupid question, but why, if there was no NDA, why would you bother reaching out to your competition anyway?
Well, you had to kiss the ring. And we just weren't gonna do that anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. So after the Toys for Tots thing happened, what was the next escalation from there?
There were there were several. That was Christmas of 2024. Fairly recent. They had just been calling around to our beer accounts. Everyone was scared to bring our beer on, or they had heard that we're bigots and racists. Oh, we're not going to carry your brand. Our distributors who brought us on, while they were fairly proactive, there was always that pullback. They didn't want to include us in events sometimes, like a festival.
Alan,
yeah,
I think it's the perfect time to go into. We did all these events throughout the spring and the summer, and then we ended up having our last event at your place.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you talk about, you can tell them that, who we fed. We went out to the hospital, the police departments, the fire departments, the emergency rooms. And we fed all these first responders the day before we were having this, our year-end celebration for the work that we did. We had Tom Holman there, Jason, Stu, Jason Jones, Tara. Like, we were promoting this big event, and we again wanted to bring and invite the community in to hear firsthand on what is actually going on at the border. Let's set that scene. So we went down a few days early. We did the logistics. We went out. We handed out. Where did we get the food from? Because it was really good. Because we even fed the homeless.
Wasn't it? Was it Mission Barbecue?
Mission Barbecue, yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we went out. I think we fed over 1,200. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was like
around there.
People. And when we did that, we all had our own vehicles, and we spent the entire day bringing food and delivering it to all the first responders. And everyone, again, just like everywhere else, was so grateful. And we had one-on-one conversations with everybody. And in doing so, we are telling everybody about the event we were having the next day here at the brewery. Come on down. And the amount of excitement from the first responders, I honestly thought it was going to be mobbed, right? Didn't you, Alan? Literally, we thought it was going to be mobbed. And
we went to the sheriff's department. We went to the Norfolk Police Department. You guys went to the fire department.
We went to the hospital. The
hospital.
That was like an hour away. And traffic.
And the sheriff's department and the Norfolk Police Department even posted on their Facebook and Twitter, "Thank you, Armed Forces Brewing Company," and with pictures, And 6 minutes later, those posts were taken down. 6 minutes later.
Nerves were hit then.
Alan, I've got a question for you. Chris, I just sent you something. If you can put this up. they're putting out, it looks like they're putting out pieces of internal memos that you guys were talking to your shareholders about. How are they getting a hold of this internal mail?
Yeah, so they've had that for a while now. They either invested in the company or somebody's feeding them that information. They've been making AI generate. I do these I was doing these video updates for the shareholders. They have a portal that they can log into from our website. Each shareholder has access to that. And I do these weekly to bi-weekly progress reports by video, talking to the shareholders about, how we're doing on distribution. And they were taking those videos and AI generating them. They were using me and Rob O'Neill and Gretchen Smith and making AI generated videos of stuff we didn't say, So
this looks like, to me, like you've got a mole inside your investors or inside your organization.
We do. And have had one, but we don't know who it is, and they are shareholders in the company, and we have to make it accessible for them.
Yeah, that's crazy. Thanks for adding that as too.
Yeah.
So let's back up for a second here. What was Bracknell doing as far as the food trucks are concerned? Was he saying that they would be boycotted if they carried your product?
Yeah, he was. He got a hold of the director of the Hampton Roads Food Truck Association, who is a shareholder in the company, and he was not only harassing the Hampton Roads Food Truck Association, but he was also calling individual food truck owners as well and harassing them. Why are they doing business at Armed Forces Brewing Company? They're bigots and racists. We're gonna boycott you if you do business with Armed Forces Brewing Company. So getting food trucks to our tap room on a regular, consistent basis to drive business there was a chore, a big chore.
Because you didn't have real food inside. Like
correct. There was no food component. This tap room it holds almost 400 people inside the tap room. It's a large tap room. So it's an event center as well. We would have events. We had an admiral who I think was a retirement party or a commissioning party or something like that. We had an admiral hold a party there, and they doxed him on Twitter for having his party at Armed Forces Brewing Company. People don't want to deal with that drama. Vendors don't want to deal with that drama.
And local people don't either. The local first responders, the law enforcement.
Yes.
They were probably, when those pictures came out or came down, I would assume that a memo went out or a strong warning that, don't be caught there. There's no other reason as to why it was empty.
These people, so you're aware, showed up at these hands-off protests up there in Norfolk. And the things that they're spouting in here are about as un-American and against Trump as I have ever seen. You really count yourself lucky for being the hell out of there is all I could say.
Yep, without a doubt. Oh yeah. This has been going on since we took over the building. I think we took over the building and it was announced July 7th, I believe. This has been from day one. As soon as Kevin O'Connor, the former owner, went to his staff and said, "I've sold the brewery. We're done." They're taking over the building July 24th. That was on July 7th. He told his staff. As soon as that happened and they found out who bought the brewery, boy, they were out on social media. It started that day.
Do you know who's behind this Citizens for a Better Norfolk by chance?
So they claim it's a group of people, and we think Bracknell's behind it, Copland's behind it, but there's somebody, Zach Roberts is behind it, but there's somebody else who over on Reddit has a handle or a profile that's called TECL_. underscore Grimm's daughter.
And what was that again?
These are all caps, TECL in caps, underscore, and then Grimm's daughter, which is a what do you call it? A video game character. Grimm's daughter, GRIMSDOTTIR. This person is supposedly a video effects supervisor. They claim their dad was in the Air Force. They're from the Midwest. And they've been a video effects supervisor for 10 years. And they have been driving the opposition as well, along with Copland and Bracknell.
So Copland and Bracknell, do you have a combination of both written libel as well as a record of spoken slander? Like, you have both of those kind of compiled in all of your evidence?
Absolutely. We've got screenshots. We've been monitoring their social media posts, and obviously we've got emails from vendors and text messages from vendors that we use as evidence as well. We really can't wait to get them into discovery. And,
you got a clear case of tortious interference here.
Sure, absolutely. Check out Virginia Code 18.2-499. They've surpassed the bar of that code, which is criminal. There's a criminal and civil element, which is 18.2500 to that.
Hey, Alan, I don't want you to forget about the vandalism and then also your threats. I'm going to end up booting off of here in a few minutes. I got to pack for a business trip tomorrow. But if you wanted to just touch on that, I know that's kind of important. And then I'll say goodbye.
You taking off now?
I know after you talk about the threat and the vandalism real quick.
Yeah. So after all of this, we decided, the board voted to close up the facility, and we're going to relocate to either Texas or Florida. And we announced the closure, and about sent out a release to our shareholders, talking about the woke mob, and somebody came over and vandalized the building. Now, this is a historic building. It's kind of ironic. This is a historic building with old brick. And the city, during our permit process, they did not want us to paint this brick at all. Everyone else has their brick painted down in the area that we're at. Everyone else has painted their historical brick, but they didn't want us to paint the brick, so we didn't. That was a compromise to get our permit, so we didn't paint the brick. Anyway, this group came down and somebody spray painted "Get Woke Mob" on the brick, on the historic brick, with black spray paint. How ironic. So there was that. This Zach D. Roberts S2, have you looked at him at all?
No, like I said, I didn't get a lot of time to look at this email chain today.
He's the most militant of them all. He calls himself a journalist, a photojournalist.
Zach Roberts is his name?
Zach D. Roberts. Yeah, he's out there on Blue Sky and Twitter or X. He says on his post that he was for a short time a photog at the Trump White House. If you look at his posts, he is connected to Antifa, all these demonstrations. He is a progressive left-wing. Seems to be a violent guy. He talks about how cool it is when cops get beat up, and how veterans, signed up to go over and kill brown people. And
each one of these cells, they all have their own little internal photographer, journalists, as they call them.
Yeah.
We have them here too.
He's out there. He's been obsessed with me personally, with Rob and Gretchen, the Citizens for a Better Norfolk as well. And he happened to post something about Luigi Mangione, the guy who gunned down the CEO of United Healthcare. And he said something about, I have two things in common with Luigi Mangione. I'd like to take out a CEO, and something about his apparel, his jackets or something like that. And he posted that. Well, when you're living this day by day with these people, because they're posting every day about Armed Forces Brewing Company, about Rob, about Gretchen, about me. They're posting every day. Multiple posts even. You know, you kind of wonder, is he talking about me? You know, they had just got done graffitiing the building. You know, I wonder if this guy, in doing a little deep dive into him, he was arrested at the Occupy Washington or Occupy New York. I'm not sure which one it was. He was arrested there, and on his profile, the description of his profile, I'm not sure where it's at, on his website maybe, he talks about how he's been arrested, kind of bragging about, he's been arrested by somewhere in Louisiana and at these demonstrations. And I'm just wondering, you know, who is this guy?
Is this Zach D. Roberts? Is that who you're referring to?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, the best part of the new Daredevil series is when he's beating the shit out of cops.
Yeah, he hates cops. Always talking about how he hates cops.
That's crazy. Guys, I'm going to be heading out, so I want to say have a good night.
Thanks, Ken.
We'll catch you guys later.
All right. Safe travels, Ken.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Bye, Ken.
So now that we've covered, I would say, the foot soldiers, at least a portion of the foot soldiers, there's some people at another level up that have been participating in the shadows in the background that's even more disturbing. So S2, I'm going to have you lead us through the information that you found, and then Alan, feel free to add comment, or S2 can ask any questions. But let's start with this person here. What was her name again? Susan?
So this is Stacy Walls. Yeah, currently she is, hang on a second, she is the CEO of LGBT Life Center in Norfolk. She gets paid a salary of $175,000 and some change. And you'll see up in the corner, if you go back up just a little bit there and then scroll over to the side. Oh, not the picture. Get off the picture. I can't stand looking at that.
No.
If you scroll over to the right there.
Yeah, that's the full width of the image that I've got.
Okay. So
that's the full page.
Okay, you're not seeing everything there. So this LGBT Life Center apparently has a USAID grant flow going to it. And the things that I found here when looking at their connections, they're connected to several universities where they're getting grants from. And you'll notice the Tides Center is also included in this grant flow, as well as the Tides Foundation. Now, the Tides Foundation, of course, taxpayer funds are zero there. It's merely a funnel for everything else going out of Tides Foundation. So it's basically like it's the agitation piece of the laundry machine, so to speak.
Okay.
So are we really surprised that this NGO is receiving money via USAID via George Soros? No. So down below there, you'll see where I've highlighted some stuff there. This is one of their 32 grants that they got through the USAID funding, and you'll see some of the stuff that they're doing here. Providing LGBTQ affirming care, and it's for a community, a vulnerable community that has difficulty accessing services in mainstream venues. The building will be a safe space for LGBTQ youth and adults to seek support resources. The center will work with local communities to provide sexual health education, youth and adult services, community gatherings, and cultural competency trainings. That must mean the DEI training. But what disturbs me out of this is the youth part of this. They seem to have a fixation on kids. So we notice the grants that they had, 32 grants since 2019, totaled $12.8 million. That's your taxpayer money, folks.
Right there.
And you can see going back 2019 clear on through, with their highest year that they spiked in their grant request was 2022. So you can see here we've got a considerable amount of cash changing hands. Now, another business that she also was involved in was something called Casa El Dorado. Casa El Dorado is a child advocacy group. I believe they're out of California. And you'll notice that if you can see that, they also have a USAID grant flow. They didn't get quite as much money as this LGBT Life Center. But it's interesting that we still run into the same things when I look at these USAID grant flows. And by the way, every single executive principal officer of this Casa El Dorado is compensated $0. I find it really difficult to believe that an organization like this isn't getting some compensation somewhere. And the way their website reads, it kind of reads like it's a funnel for a potential of either youth indoctrination, or they could be one of these organizations that works with the Child Care Protective Services in California, where they're talking about removing kids from the homes if their parents don't want to have their genitals
mutilated.
I was going to say reconfigured, but it just always seems, why is it that they always have something to do with the kids? Is it captive indoctrination? Is it grooming? What is this? And then we move down to the next one, which is Centerlink Incorporated. Centerlink Incorporated, guess what? They have their own Wikipedia page. And we all know who runs Wikipedia, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Again, all principal officers are, you have some of them, I believe in this one, that actually are paid. I didn't expand it because it would have been too long. But they also got grants through the USAID via George Soros Tide Center. They weren't quite as greedy as the other one, but just makes me wonder, why does George Soros keep popping up here? And now what we see here is they got $1.878 million. And if you look further down, this is what they got their grant for: LGBT Tobacco and Cancer Disparity Network. What in the hell is that?
I was just going to say, what does that even mean? So let me go back up. I know you don't want to look at her and the dude there, but what is her connection to the other people who've already been discussed tonight?
Yeah, so she's been out and interviewed on a couple news stories about us. We invited them all to the grand opening. Stacey Walls did not come and speak against us at either of the Planning Commission or the City Council meeting, but Jeff Ryder, the president of the Hampton Roads Pride, did come and speak at both of those meetings. I think it was both of them. I've never spoken with her, although, we trade interviews out, like I said, out in the media. So that's all I know of her. I remember one email back and forth that we might have had, where I said, I told her, if you know of any LGBTQ veterans that are homeless or need assistance in Hampton Roads, get a hold of me.
Okay.
We'll help. And other than that, that's all I've had with her at all.
So,
but she's definitely vocal out there against us.
Okay, so she's been doing the circuit, for lack of a better term, spreading the same lies that were started by Bracknell and Copland.
They all know each other. It's a small town, Norfolk. They all know each other, without a doubt.
And there's evidence of them interacting together, whether it be social media, events, stuff like that. Like they're
social media, and we're gonna, hopefully these FOIA requests will connect some of that as well, as we find out. The city council voted 6-1 in favor of our permits. One of the city council members chastised the opposition and said, "You guys are the instigators of this." But the one city council person that voted against us is a woman named Andrea McClellan, who is involved with all these people that we're talking about here. She is no longer on the city council. I think she moved to Atlanta with her husband, who works for Norfolk Southern Railroad. He was transferred down there. But she's as progressive left wing as you can get. And you'll notice that Zach D. Roberts and Citizens for a Better Norfolk repost her material, her content sometimes.
So I think I got your name of your person who took your photographs. You ever heard of somebody named Aaron F. Stone?
I have not.
Yeah.
Who's that?
I am not sure. I'm getting ready to find out. I'm sitting here doing research as we're talking. There he is.
Who are photographs? Which photographs?
The Ghent woke mob on the side of the building. He's got a bunch of pictures up here that he tagged. It's all pictures of your brewery.
Wow.
He looks like he's been doing recon work on your building.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So let's try and stitch all of this together. So you buy this brewery, which was not publicly for sale, that people didn't know was publicly for sale, and other people in, let's call it the craft beer community or industry, took offense to the fact that they were not told that it was for sale and immediately targeted you because of Rob O'Neill posting something on Twitter in the past with regards to something for the alphabet people. And then it escalated from there where more people jumped aboard. And not only, so the reason I asked you if they had put things in both writing and verbal. So written is a lot easier, obviously, to prove in court, and that's libel, slander being verbal. But libel is not that hard to prove when you have it in writing, especially if they've caused you financial harm, reputational harm, financial harm, which they have. Because let's take it to the next step. These same people are the ones who reached out to some of your suppliers after they essentially torpedoed your cash flow and then went public and said, well, Armed Forces Brewing Company owes this supplier 5,000, 10,000, whatever the numbers were, as if that was you being, I guess the word is not meeting your fiduciary responsibility, when in reality it was them who torpedoed you. So tell the audience, like you did to me, as far as a brewery is concerned, the margins are at the tap room, not so much in the distribution, which is a volume type of game, right?
Correct. We needed a certain amount of time. First of all, we got in there and put a lot of resources toward. That's a big building. It's 26,000 square feet. The tap room is huge. And it's got an upstairs mezzanine, and we had to fix equipment in there. We had to renovate, paint the whole building, renovate signs, all those things that you do when you take over a large facility like that. And the tap room, that is your profit center there. We brought in a top-notch CPA from the Brewers Association to help us with the numbers there for the next 5 years. We really expected that tap room to roll, and based on the previous owner's tap room numbers, we're not even anywhere near what they were generating out of that tap room because of all this opposition. When you go out and beat it in the heads of the community and become a nuisance, people are going to not come to your tap room if they're coming there and being harassed afterwards.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. So they were harassing people verbally and otherwise if they were patronizing your tap room, right?
Absolutely. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter what. Like I gave you a for instance with the admiral who had his retirement party there. They doxed him out and harassed him out on social media after it. They were calling around to everyone, the food trucks, bands, entertainment people, and harassing them not to do business with us. The Norfolk Tides, the Admirals, the Norfolk Admirals, that was the first sponsorship we did. And they got really, after we gave them money and wanted to do some events with them, they got really cold to us. And you know what? They never called us back to sponsor the next season. I didn't even hear from them. I reached out to them and everything. No one would call me back at all.
All right. So I want to keep adding some meat on the bone here. So this whole thing, again, starts because they weren't invited to the table when the previous owner was selling the building and the chattels. And you were under an NDA. Then they find out that you've bought it and they're pissed off for whatever reason, either because they didn't have a chance to bid on it, or here comes another competitor to the marketplace. They go after Rob O'Neill's tweets, which, by the way, I've stumbled across some stuff where they've said that Armed Forces Brewing Company is not owned by any veterans. And let's be clear, Rob's one of your partners. So that was just a bald-faced lie on their part. But then concurrently with this, you were traveling across the country to some of the events that we've been to as well, like Mar-a-Lago for Border 911. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me they latched on to all of that so to paint a picture of, okay, well, they're not just anti-LGBTQ, they're MAGA. And
they're MAGA. They're coming in. Oh,
because they're MAGA, they're bad people because they support Donald Trump and all the lies that go with that. And then just how far up does this go? Or that you can speak to at least. I see the first three people that you mentioned as foot soldiers, then this Susan girl at the next level up. But you've been shunned by a number of different public agencies that were friendly in the past. So somebody's operating at a fairly high level in the shadows here.
So here's some other connections, and we're there's pending investigations going on internally, but there's I believe the library is called the Slover Library. It's a library downtown that has video equipment. You can go and do podcasts. You do your own podcasts there. They have video production equipment. It's like a library for video production. So they're out there chatting on Reddit. These people we're talking about the Slover Library, and I run across a name of a guy named Paul Stetson Rice. Paul, at one time, it looks like he was working at the Slover Library, and he is also in the craft beer industry. He had some kind of nightlife blog and company that went around and talked about the breweries and restaurants and food and beverage and all that kind of stuff, made video content. Well, he's marrying the political director for the Democratic Party of Virginia, a girl named Emily Ham, and they're getting married at the Slover Library. And it seems that this Zach Roberts and TECL Grimm's daughter hang out at the Slover Library as well. So we don't know who all is involved in Citizens for a Better Norfolk. They brag about how many people it is. It's a group. So we don't know who all is involved in that. There's another veteran that spoke against us named Stephanie Clark that's out there on Facebook, acquiescing with all these people as well. Butch Bracknell and Andrew Copland and all of them.
So I've got a question up on the screen. I'm wondering if you could address that before we move on. So he's wondering if they were trying to get the previous owner to leave town. Was there any animosity shown towards the previous owner that you know of?
Yeah, so there was animosity toward him. He's been there for a long time, and like I told you, this Tom Wilder and Josh Copland, it's a theory. They may have wanted to buy the brewery because they went around and opened a bar down the street from us called the Annex, and it's a concert venue with food and alcohol is what it is. And I don't know if somehow we bought the brewery from out underneath them. I haven't got confirmation on that yet.
Okay, fair enough.
So I don't know, but that is a totally plausible explanation.
Okay, so I want to just bounce back to S2 for a second because I'm trying to capture the whole picture here. And again, most people who confront being attacked by these types of groups don't go public because it always comes with a threat that they're going to escalate things even further. But S2, we've got these foot soldiers that have, ties to Antifa and other groups like that. And then you have this Susan Weiss who's directly benefiting, or at least her organizations are directly benefiting from George Soros money, plus the USAID, trough of money. How does this typically work, S2? The money goes from George Soros to where? And then how does that help support the foot soldiers in general? Not just armed forces, but in general. Just paint a picture for us of how the chain of command and money goes.
Well, the money goes through the Tides Foundations, or the Tides Center, or the Open Societies thing, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And from there, it's dispersed out amongst. I think in this flow, I've seen as many as 30 NGOs that this is going in between. It also goes. PayPal is also a potential funnel for it. They're listed in that stream.
Time out for a second. So, are you saying that the money does 32 steps, or the money goes simultaneously to 32 different parties?
No, it doesn't go in any particular sequential order. So if I wish I could draw a picture of it for you, but basically, let's say we've got the Tides Foundation. It goes north, south, east, and west in some cases. And sometimes it only goes west and south and north. So it'll go west to one NGO or a university, which, by the way, University of Columbia is also mixed up in this USAID flow for these particular entities. But then you've got another one that goes north into another one. Let me see if I can find the flow here real quick.
Is it kind of like a hub and spoke deal? Is that the idea?
No, it's not a hub and spoke. It where it starts is really even kind of hard to find, because this flow is not an indictment of that this is the culprit. It passes through as many as 30 entities. And like I said, you've got the philanthropy things like with Fidelity Philanthropy Fund, you've got PayPal that it funnels through, you've got the Tides Foundation that doesn't take any of the money, but it acts as a conduit. So every time I see one in here that's grayed out, I'm using that as a conduit. That's kind of like the agitator in the washing machine.
Okay, so thank you. That was kind of getting at the heart of what I wanted to know. So they're obfuscating the origin and all the steps in between that and the end point by piling layers on top of layers. Is that the gist of it?
Yeah, if you will, they kind of act like the cartels do when they're laundering money. Everybody gets a little piece of it along the way, and then they reshuffle it again through that NGO, and then it goes out through a north or east direction. But eventually, the money ends up where it's supposed to go. So each one of them gets a piece of this pie, saying that's one of the reasons why when you see a lot of these grants out there, you see where they've been used for a capital outlay for as many as, some of them I've seen as many as 10 years, where they're getting basically an annual paycheck of X amount of dollars, X amount of dollars, X amount of dollars until it equals the amount of the grant. Like one of the grants that I saw for the LGBT Life Center was slated to go out through the end of this year. But I would dare to say that money's probably being cut off now. So
I think there's been some news stories to that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, just
last week or two.
Anecdotal example, but if somebody really has a lot of money and they manage things properly, on top of their organization, there will always be a trust. Trust lives in perpetuity, is not subject to death taxes. There's no taxes when it passes on from you to whoever else in your family is part of the trust. And underneath a trust, then you might have multiple S corps or LLCs that are stacked and stacked and stacked. And the idea is that there's no such thing as an impenetrable step. But if you make it so difficult, if there's 30 steps to get to where the money actually resides, most people won't have enough money to push it for that long to get that far to get anything out of it in the end. So it sounds like a similar type of obfuscation or protection on the part of these guys here.
Yeah, it's kind of that way, except here's the difference, is that there's a number of these entities in this USAID flow that have been identified as being funded by USAID. Democratic, just add democratic and whatever you want to the end of it. A lot of them have already been identified as being funded by USAID. So we know where that money comes from.
So let's just tie one more thing together here, and you know it better than I do. But my understanding is that George Soros donates money to one of these organizations, one of these NGOs, like this Susan Weiss works on behalf of.
Stacey Walls.
I don't know why I keep getting her name wrong. But then those same companies have been applying to USAID to get money. And so George Soros is paying pennies on the dollar to get more money to do his bidding at our expense. Is that right?
Well, what they're doing is they're applying for grants through various agencies. The ones that they're particularly getting their stuff through has been going through HHS and the CDC for some odd reason.
Okay. So, Alan, what's next here as far as Armed Forces Brewing Company, and then as far as this whole debacle in Norfolk?
So we're gonna relocate. We're gonna go and contract brew, probably in multiple locations. We've got distribution and a presence in the Mid-Atlantic region, all the way from Pennsylvania and Maryland, Virginia, over to Ohio, and down to Florida. And we just signed with a distributor in Texas as well. So we're going to relocate the company and go back to our contract brewing model, try to sell this location, and go from there right now.
What's your gut tell you as far as how well connected the people are in Norfolk? I'm wondering if they're going to try and torpedo you in other states, which it seems to me there's already enough evidence to launch civil. I don't know about criminal, but it seems to me there's enough to launch civil action. But do you think that they're connected to the point that they can go and stir things up in these other regions?
Well, when we first got to town and the announcement was made that we had bought the building, they put up a website called, I think, Armed Forces Brewing Company, the whole name, .com, and linked it to the Trevor Project, which is a gay website, gay nonprofit organization or something, one of the biggest in the country, I guess, for donations. I think it's an intricate network, a lot more intricate than we know. Obviously, what S2 is finding out just in day one or day two of digging into this is pretty astounding. And I think that to get them not to follow us is going to require investigation by law enforcement and civil litigation as well against them. And we're going to pursue that. We lost a lot of money on this venture coming to Norfolk, and they've hurt not only us, not only financially, but they've hurt the brand and me personally as well. They've accused me of stolen valor and all sorts of stuff out there. So there's a lot of different moving parts to this, but we need to go after them. And
I guess on a final note, there have been threats against you personally, correct?
Kind of veiled threat. What I told you about the Luigi Mangione, the Zach D. Roberts guy. I've been an obsession of his and this group for over a year and a half, almost 2 years now. Wanting to take out a CEO when we both live in the same city, and I'm part of their target on their radar screen. Makes you wonder.
Yeah. So my high level take on this, and this is not the first time I've seen this happen. I've actually had this happen to clients of mine that were in the gun industry, and there were these what looked like small grassroots, gatherings that were funded by Bloomberg of all people, and then we found out that essentially they were Bloomberg. S2, what's the name of Bloomberg's group that's against guns? Something.
I can't remember right off the top of my head. Sorry.
Well, that group that Bloomberg has funded, basically what they were doing is they recognized that they weren't having much luck at the federal or state level as far as getting the laws that they wanted to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. So what they did is they started going to their supporters in these small towns and big towns. They did this in Chicago as well, where they basically pressured local politicians to put laws in place that there had to be X amount of distance between schools, churches, and gun stores. And that's been very successful for them. I know of over 36 instances where they have shut down a gun retailer by getting local municipal bylaws to say, you can't be within 2 miles, 3 miles, whatever the number is of schools. So this seems to parallel that is what I'm getting at. You've got somebody with big money, George Soros, Bloomberg, in both cases, a crazy flow of money to try and obfuscate where it's coming from. And the first time that we ran into the gun issue, Alan, we thought it was specific to this one small town in West Virginia. And it took about 6 months for us to dig and find out that it had happened in 36 cities around the country. And it was a highly oiled machine that Bloomberg's anti-gun group, Mothers Against Violence or something like that it's called. But my point is that I guess I personally feel that these people are continuing to do this because they've been let off the hook for years now, right? Even if they get charged, they give them a slap on the wrist and nobody has really penalized them for this type of behavior. I think that they feel incredibly emboldened by it. And I think that if I was in your shoes, I'd be full steam ahead on getting some sort of win in court so that if they reached out to somebody in another state, you could say, well, here's the ruling from the court. These guys are unhinged and they're violating our rights and we've got a judgment against them. And that would be the end of the story at that point in time.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I used to say that's my 1.2 cents when Biden was illegitimately in office, but it's back to a full 2 cents under Trump. So that's my 2 cents. S2 parting thoughts.
Yeah, totally agree with you. There are other businesses we know that they've done this to as well. We know we've had other brewers around the country. We had a retired Marine that owned a brewery in Alabama who came across Andrew Copland and got the shakedown from him. He ended up closing his brewery as well. So there's other people that are coming, and feeding us information and kind of they've gone through a lot of what we've gone through. They definitely hate conservatives and hate Republicans. Right across the street is an apartment complex, and the woman who heads the Norfolk GOP rented out the beer garden, which holds about 120 people. And she had a restaurant right around the corner called Fish and Pig to cater. She hired Fish and Pig to cater in the food for this outdoor beer garden Norfolk GOP party. It was close to election time. And this group, and I believe Bracknell was probably the leader of it, called the Fish and Pig and raised hell with them. And Fish and Pig ended up backing out and not catering the event. And there were political candidates that didn't show up either for that event because of the harassment. I mean, it's crazy.
So
crazy stuff.
All of this stuff is, flirting with being illegal. But again, I think it comes back to a lack of punishment, right? They haven't been punished yet. And hopefully we're going to see that change under the current administration, which was rightfully elected. Alan, wish you the best of luck with everything. Stay in touch. If there's any interesting developments, you're welcome to come back anytime and share that with our audience. Other than that, I don't know. S2, do you have any parting words for Alan before we move on?
Well, Alan, I hope that I can have the opportunity to converse with you again at some point, and maybe we can compare notes on some of the stuff that we're digging out on these folks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. And I appreciate you guys having me on, and Chris, as always, and S2, thanks for digging in on this. I mean, these people definitely need to be investigated, and I think there's a lot more to uncover as we get in there. I'm really interested in what the FOIA is going to bring to us.
Yeah, that'll be.
I'm gonna go after Mr. Bracknell. He has besmirched the name of my Marine Corps, and I don't put up with that.
Wow. So we may be inviting you back with updates for you instead of you having updates.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me, but all right. Best of luck, Alan. Stay in touch.
Thank you so much, guys.
We'll talk soon. I've got a short message from one of our sponsors. All right. So that was Performance Triggers, performancetriggers.com. Discount code SD10. So S is in Sam, D is in David. Gets you 10% off any of their triggers and free shipping. And they've got a whole bunch of very high performance triggers that I cannot show when we're broadcasting to half a dozen different platforms like we are tonight. It'll get us a strike for sure. But if you are an insider, which by the way is now referred to as a guardian, we're midstream this week and going through a rebranding, the first rebranding for Survival Dispatch since 2017. The company was started in 2016, rebranded in 2017, and we're just rolling things out now. So people who have memberships with us are now our fellow guardians, and we chose that wording for a very specific reason. You know, our mission has evolved somewhat, but it's still related to what it was in 2016. And that is to dispatch information to our fellow Americans and friends of America to empower you as fellow guardians to help save our republic and Christian culture. If you ever join as a guardian and you look at the volume of information in our Signal chat, there's a lot of stuff that may seem random, but if somebody asked me what kind of stitches it all together, I would say it's the war on our culture. And I've said this many times before, we are essentially the firewall between globalism and freedom. If we go down, nobody's coming to rescue us. So the Chinese have been trying to destroy us for years. The big money guys out there have been trying to destroy us for years, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and their henchmen like the World Economic Forum and on down from there. And we have a chance to win our country back and restore our culture to its former strength, let's say. But if we don't do that, there's zero instances in recorded history of two or more diametrically opposed cultures coexisting peacefully in one area. It doesn't happen. One always takes over. So a couple quick things before we dive into chapter 2. Today is POW MIA Recognition Day. I just wanted to mention it for everybody. I know it's getting late in the day. I was going to mention it at the beginning of the podcast, but the conversation started rolling. I didn't want to interrupt that. Also want to give a quick update on Trump and the tariff scenario. So while the left have been melting down over tariffs, and I hate to use this because it's very cliche now, but they've been playing checkers and Donald Trump's been playing 5D chess. Essentially what happened is 75 countries reached out to the Trump administration over the course of the past week and said, hey, can we talk? Can we work something out to, drop tariffs in both directions, those sort of things, which is necessary because we've been at a deficit for years. We've been taken advantage of for years. our economy is so much larger than anything out there. It's not even comparable. Even China, I think China will struggle to get to 17 trillion this year. They may struggle to get to 15 trillion because of the recent developments that happened later today, which I'm just going to expand on a little bit right now. So Trump essentially negotiated with 75 countries. We'll put a 90-day pause on the tariffs, other than we'll just charge a flat 10% tariff, and we'll figure this out together. And we're going to freeze China out of the equation, essentially, right? So the Chinese first, they put a 34% tariff out there, then 84 or 85%. And right now, Trump is sitting at 125% tariff on Chinese stuff. And there are some rumors that that could go substantially higher, 200, 300, 400%. So what does that look like for us? It's cheap Chinese stuff will dry up, and whatever addiction we have to that, we'll have to detox to get off of that cheap Chinese stuff. It's probably the biggest impact for most Americans is going to be the cost on prescription drugs, because almost all of them are manufactured overseas. But India manufactures a lot now as well, and India has been very copacetic as far as doing business with us. So y'all have heard me for the past couple of years drone on that China is in very, very shaky economic condition, and I have a feeling that this tariff war now, which is essentially it's China, not just against us, but the other 75 as well. Those other 75 countries are going to step it up and say, hey, we know you've been buying whatever from China. Why don't you buy it from us? Like Vietnam, they're like the shoe capital of the world now from a manufacturing perspective. So my crystal ball says we're going to see a little bit of short-term pain, but it's really not substantial in the long run. And as well, oh no, we can't go and buy a $5 Chinese trinket, those sorts of things. But I think at the end of the day, this will devastate China, much like we devastated the USSR back in the 80s. And we did it economically. And that's what we're going to do to China here. We're going to penalize them economically for the war they've waged against us since 1949, killing our people with fentanyl, spying on everything that we've got. We were just at SHOT Show in January, for crying out loud. And the first day, it seemed like every hour or so we were being told, oh yeah, the Chinese were over at that vendor's booth there taking pictures of everything, and security had to escort them out. Their culture is such that they frown upon innovation. They see it as gambling and that it's a risk. So in their mind, it's not stealing, which it's absolutely stealing. And I want to be clear, it's not all Chinese people. It's like a lot of other countries, like Canada has had and continues to have piss poor leadership, but Canadians on the whole are really good people, just like most people in China are really good people. I've had many people go over there to work with companies like suppliers and come back and say, wow, super polite, very nice people. CCP, that's another story. So this is a big deal, what happened today. And the markets, by the way, spiked like a son of a gun after all of this started coming out. But China got played by Donald Trump, and China, as much trouble as they've been in, and I voiced this as recently as a couple days ago, they're in even deeper economic trouble now. And I think it's a rough road ahead for them.
I guess we're going to have to stop buying their voting machines.
So speaking of voting machines, Newsmax lost in court today to Dominion Voting Systems, which is Canadian. And I don't think anything they reported is worthy of losing a civil suit. And I'm with US too. We need to just eliminate it. Paper ballots.
We have the fucking evidence that the shit comes from Venezuela. It's owned by Venezuela.
Smartmatic.
I mean, come on.
That's my point, though. So here's an example. So India is now the most populous country on earth, 1.4 billion-ish people. 770 million of them are old enough to vote, and they have same-day voting. They have to produce ID, and everything's paper ballots and counted by hand, and they have the results that night. So if they can do it with 1.4 billion, and we've done it that way for many years, we can certainly do it with 150 million, 60 million voters out of 330 million legitimate voters. But anyway, moving on from there, quick update as well on the rebrand stuff. You're going to see more of it roll out over the next few days. But when you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, or if you go to our Substack, which is at survivaldispatch.news, you'll already see new logos, refreshed logos. You'll see new taglines for Survival Dispatch. It's as Christians we're preparing, whereas on the Survival Dispatch News, the Christian Sentinel, we're on the look for the truth to distribute the truth. And if you sign up on either of those sites, you get our daily sit rep. You get an invite to our super busy Signal chat, ton of intel in there. Brad Wozni texted me the other day ago, and he's like, man, I went to bed, got up this morning, there's 900 messages. I thought that was pretty comical, but it's
welcome to my world. I have like 50 channels that I monitor.
yeah, it's crazy. And then on top of that, SDN Aftermath now is at 11 a.m. every Saturday morning, and it's strictly for the Guardians, previously known as Insiders. And it's a one-on-one type webinar with just me going through whatever topics you guys have asked for and voted for. This coming Saturday for Guardians, we will be discussing putting your home defense plan together. So we have a PDF available on our website that's free to download, and it'll give you a lot of guidance on your home defense plan. But we're going to go through that process this Saturday, and then we've got the next 7 weeks after that already defined on things that the Guardians specifically asked for. And I got to share something here. So we talk about Chinese stuff frequently, and just bear with me for a second. We did this shootout maybe 2 years ago, and we had, I want to say, four different night vision products, ranging from the cheapest of the cheap, like $100, all the way up to, PV14. So I think the one we showed that time was like a $2,500 unit. And there was this product that was on a Kickstarter. I want to say it was $189 at the time. And it was this product right here from AKASO. So the Seymour 200 NVGs, night vision goggles, what it stands for. They really shouldn't call them that, by the way, because they're actually a monocular that looks like, binoculars or whatever. So we had a pre-production unit. I went outside, took a bunch of pictures with all the different devices with and without infrared illumination, and we put it into a chart. We threw it up on our website and on our YouTube channel as well, and said, judge for yourself. So it was $100 unit. It was the Kickstarter stuff at $189 for a KSO. Then I want to say it jumped to $700 or $800 for another company, and then $2,500 from there. Now the clarity of the image on the $189 unit was as good as the high-end PV14, but because it uses digital rendering, there was latency. So what that means is that everything's in the glass with Army grade, military grade night vision. So when you turn your head like this, there's no trailers, there's no time for the CPU to catch up and render it, whereas digital there is. So I'm not saying the $189 unit is something that you would want for tactical purposes, but what it's really good for is seeing what's going on outside at night without being detected. So I mentioned to them not too long ago, I said, hey, just so you know, the pre-production unit that I've had, which was long before they shipped anything, it wouldn't charge the batteries. And there were a couple of pre-production ones that had that problem, including the one that I had. My wife comes in my office today and she's like, hey, check this box out. And it was the Seymour 200 night vision goggles. So they're now $239. I think they're like $289 on special for $239 with the link. We don't get any affiliate commission, but if you want to be able to see what's going on at night, you can't beat the price for $239. It's actually very, very impressive. So that's the AKASO Seymour 200. Again, we didn't get paid, but I did want to mention that it was very nice of them. I didn't expect them to send us a new set a couple years later. And lo and behold, they not only surprised me with that, they put an SD card in the box. They put a nice tripod in the box. I mean, just really nice people. Didn't have to do that. And it's a really decent unit. So, all right, enough of that. Let's move on to chapter 2. We'll try to get through this as quick as we can so that we can get to chapter 3 as well. So here's a post that's on Trump basically pulling the wool over China's eyes. So I'm going to read this off, and then I want to get your input as to. So Trump just shifted the global game again. Here's what you missed. While the media obsessed over a pause, Trump just pulled a power move that sent the Dow soaring 2,800 points. Let's break it down. 1, Trump's Truth Social post was no retreat. It was a calculated strategic pivot. 90-day tariff pause for non-retaliating nations, 125% tariff on China. The result, Wall Street exploded. The Dow surged nearly 3,000 points in hours. Number 2, no other president would have done this. Trump's words weren't bravado. They were fact. For decades, weak leadership let countries bleed America dry. How did it benefit us by taking all of our good paying blue collar jobs in manufacturing and shipping them elsewhere in the world? How did that help those people? Did anybody ask those people if that's what they wanted? The only people it helped were, the mega corps like BlackRock and Vanguard. So here's what's happening right now. We're taking in an extra $2 billion a day right now in tariffs. We have 75 countries that have come to us and asked to get a deal, and Donald Trump did a deal with them. And part of that deal, by the way, is that we will work collectively with those 75 countries to backfill whatever we're no longer going to buy from China. It's essentially a coalition of 76 countries against China for all intents and purposes. China have said they want a deal and that they're going to send a contingency over here, but they have no clue how to deal with somebody like Donald Trump. Number 3, be cool. Trump said markets were getting yippy, panicking before understanding the plan, and they were. And it wasn't chaos. It was a chess move. And he explained you don't always go through the wall. Sometimes you go over, under, or around it. That's flexibility, and that's leadership. Number 4, tariffs are more than economics. They're surgical strikes in a monetary war. Under Trump, China is punished for playing dirty. U.S. factories and chip makers are returning. Strategic reserves like Bitcoin are growing. Wealth and production are coming home. Number 5, the border, trade, and debt are all connected. Trump reminded us 36 trillion in debt didn't appear by accident. Open borders equal national security and economic collapse. Foreign powers, especially China, exploited us for decades, but not anymore. Final thoughts. Trump is orchestrating a transition to greatness, not just rhetoric, not just policy, a full system reset. Fair trade, economic sovereignty, global power realignment, a future defined by American innovation. This isn't just a tariff story. It's a blueprint for restoring America's economic throne. Absolutely brilliant move. If you had said to the American public not too long ago that Trump would have a plan that inside of a week where he would send China reeling while the balance of the developed world teamed up with America, everybody would have said you were smoking crack and that you were crazy. But it's exactly what Trump has done. And the funniest part, S2, out of all this is me watching on the news over here on my other desk all day, playing in the background how the liberals they've been screaming the past couple of days, oh my God, Trump caused this huge market crash. Now they're complaining that the markets went back up again, because now they're saying, oh, well, this was a calculated move so that people could game the market and drive it down, buy low, and then let it rebound way up and sell high. They've got all these crazy theories, when in reality, there was no theory. He was putting China in its place, and they're lost. S2, give me your take on the China situation. They're in trouble, man.
This has been his plan for a long time. It was his plan in his first term. He just didn't get a chance to finish it. And
Agree.
what's not being mentioned here, and what's driving the fucking Democrats crazy, is not only is this doing all of the above in that post, it's also rebuilding the middle class that Joe Biden and the Democrats have been trying to destroy for the last 5 years.
Well, yeah, but since the 80s, right? That crew's
By
been
bringing back all of the manufacturing back to the United States. We have the raw materials here. We just have to get back to processing them again instead of purchasing them. He's basically shut China out of the market at this point, temporarily, because they're going to come to the table and they're going to deal. They don't have a choice. They can't feed their people. They're saying 60% of their factories are closed.
Yes.
So 60% of their factories are closed. They can't survive on that because it's only going to get worse. Meanwhile, with the 90-day pause and the deals that are being made with the 75 other countries, we'll still be able to take in the goods that the United States needs, that our country needs to subsist.
Yeah, I think
while we're building up our industrial base within.
Yeah, and I think that's great as far as you mentioning the other companies essentially filling voids out of this whole thing, that China cannot live without us. If China cannot sell their products into our market because we've put too much economic pressure on them with tariffs, and then we also establish new supply chains with other countries, they're going to implode. They will be.
What I want to know is if China, okay, so China's come in here and they've bought food producing companies here like Smithfield Pork and those kinds of things, Smithfield Farms. So my question is, if they're exporting it out of the United States, does that mean they're paying tariffs on their own product that they're exporting?
If they were sending them to China, they sure would.
They are.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
God, it's fucking genius.
It is. And I think some of the naysayers are finally seeing, how Trump plays this. This was a brilliant move on his part. Not all of his moves are brilliant, but most of them are, and this is pretty dang brilliant.
The whole Chinese company, food companies shipping stuff out of the countries had me a little perplexed today. I was wondering how that was going to work.
Yeah, that's for sure. Great point. Very interesting. All right. And just because we're running a little bit long, I'm not going to play all the videos. I will play a little bit in this one, though. $5 trillion. Doge has uncovered $5 trillion in untraceable payments. And again, I can't really relate to $5 trillion. I can relate to $1 billion. But here's the deal, and I've said it before, I'm going to explain it again for our new listeners. If you had $1 million, you convert to, $1 million, you convert to 1 million seconds of time, you would have 11 days. If you had $1 billion, convert it to 1 billion seconds, it's 31.67 years. And if you had $1 trillion and you convert to 1 trillion seconds, it's 31,667 years. So take that number and multiply it by 5, and you end up with 158.335 trillion years, or dollars, but years basically. That's beyond my level of comprehension. It's a huge, huge number. Let's just listen to the beginning of this from Jesse Waters.
$5 trillion in payments that are untraceable. The budget line is blank, and they're worried about your Bitcoin. 5 trillion, untraceable. No idea where it went and how it was spent. A $5 trillion blank check. Social Security sent out $72 billion in bad checks. Guess who resigned last night? The head of Social Security. Right when Doge asked Michelle King to have a seat because she was about to get canned, she says, "You can't fire me because I quit." And the press is acting like this isn't suspicious.
Good, and now you can be subpoenaed.
The Pentagon. You may assert there's no waste in Treasury.
I'm not
you may assert there's no waste in HHS.
All right, I'll stop it there. You get the gist of it. $5 trillion. And so here's the next piece from Doge. Social Security numbers issued to non-citizens over the past 4 years. 2021, 270,000. 2022, 590,000. 2023, 964,000. 2024, 2,095,000. And many of these people, by the way, are getting money through programs that only Americans can get, and yet they're not, because these are non-citizens, illegals.
Fox to reveal what's really going on. Doge exposed our immigration asylum disaster. That was the tip of the iceberg. Now, here's the story. Doge has found that immigration gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So they could work as an illegal, knowing it would take years before their case was heard. The Immigration Department mailed them a social security number. No interview, no proof of identity. Just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, DOJ says 270,000 new aliens were issued social security numbers, 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, and 2.1 million in 24, right before Biden left office. DOJ also discovered that 1.3 million aliens are now receiving Medicaid. Millions received driver's licenses, some registered to vote, and DOJ says some actually did vote. Try and square that against Democrat claims that Musk is destroying Social Security and cutting Medicaid. He's not destroying, he's weeding out people who don't qualify. Who is really guilty of misinformation in this case? It is not Elon Musk.
Amen to that. You want to take a swing at that, Stu?
Yeah, we knew that was happening 6 months after that whole shit show started. We got news out of Michigan, I believe it was, from a Social Security Administration insider that was telling us they were issuing Social Security numbers to illegals.
Yeah, it's, again, we've discussed this because the reason the Democrats have been doing this is they don't breed. And because they don't breed, it's only a matter of time before nobody's voting for them. So the two ways to make up for that are, one, indoctrinate our children to believe they're crazy crap, and I should say, import illegals from third world countries who will vote Democrat forever because they let them in the country and they gave them a handout.
You know why they're not procreating? Have you ever seen some of them?
Well, of course, I put together chapter 3 most days of the week.
There you go.
So, I mean, when you try to shove a Christmas tree up your vagina and you get it 2 feet inserted, it's no wonder you don't have kids. And for those of you who are new to Survival Dispatch, that's a true story. Look it up. The lady who tried to steal a Christmas tree.
I a board to your ass.
All right. So now Schumer wants to take the tariff authority from Trump. They're doing everything in their power to keep the money flowing through USAID, which they lost that one. It's done. All of these cash cows that they've had in place. Now they want the tariffs to go away. And the question is, how do you go from 200,000 a year, give or take, like all these Congress critters? And what's Chuck worth now as to like 90 million, 80 million, something like that?
Well, this is an interesting phenomenon too. You know, they're all upset and all up in arms about all of this. What they're really upset about is, okay, so the stock market took a huge fucking dive the other day, but then it started going back up, and the little guys were out there buying the dips on this thing. So where they lost millions, that was a transfer of wealth right there. That's what they're pissed about.
Well, I mean, they're overall pissed at their whole Ponzi scheme is being shut down, right?
Yeah.
So a little bit more actually on the China stuff right here. President Trump says China wants to make a deal, and they're in the process of figuring it out. And that was after he slapped them with the 125%. So again, they're done without us. Piece of good news here. Ken Paxton is running for Senate in Texas, and he's going to be going up in the primary against brutal rhino John Cornyn, who's got to go. He's another one of these establishment shills profiting off the system, voting against the American citizens out there. He's going to get slaughtered by Ken Paxton, like absolutely slaughtered. It's not even going to be close. He should just quit now and forego the embarrassment. All right, next one up. Pam Bondi on the seizure of more than 48,400 pounds of illicit narcotics worth over $509 million. This is a textbook example of the Justice Department supporting the fight against violent crime. Congratulations, U.S. Coast Guard. What they did saved countless American lives. It's a 2-minute video. I'm not playing it. You guys have heard me time and again say I'm not a big fan of Pam Bondi's. And she did this when she was our AG here in Florida, and she's doing the exact same thing. A leopard doesn't change its spots. She loves the camera. She likes to be in front of the camera. She likes to be on talk shows. But at the end of the day, where are the Epstein files? Anybody know where the Epstein files are? Paging Epstein. Where
They're
are the
sitting on her
Epstein
desk.
files? Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like, it's when, here's the deal.
Well, you know what? It's okay for her to be in front of the camera. She needs to stay the hell out of the way, and that's a good place for her to be. So she can be in front of the camera, because one of the things that she's done here recently was she announced a new operation. I forget what this is about, but it's basically Operation Shadow of the Beast. They're going after some people, and this is not her doing it. This is Kash Patel and Dan Bongino doing it.
Yeah, the problem I have with her going in front of the camera all the time is taking credit for stuff that other people have done. She did it here in Florida, and she's not our people. She travels in circles with other rhinos, with Democrats, with Democrat mega donors. She brought red flag laws here to Florida, which we're trying to get off the books. She's the weakest pick that Trump has made, and Mike Waltz would be right behind her. But the two of them, I don't trust either one of them, to be quite frank. All right, next one up. A judge in Texas temporarily stops Trump from invoking the Alien Enemies Act. I thought the Supreme Court made a ruling on this nonsense already. Ignore all rogue judges. So actually, I could have written that myself, Stu. I don't know if you can shed any light, because I had a very hectic day. But my understanding is that we won the ruling in Supreme Court to use the Alien Enemies Act to get these shitbags out of our country.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. So ignore them. What are they going to do? Hold you in contempt? Fuck off.
Yeah, it just.
And even if they could hold you in contempt, who's going to enforce it?
Right. Yeah. The DOJ won't enforce it for sure. But here's the way I'm looking at this, by the way. So all of these rogue judges who are in cahoots with the Schumers, the Pelosi's, the Cornyn's, all these people are doing everything in their power to keep the money in place that they're used to feeding off of, insane sums of money. And my prediction is the more we see these types of, calls on the part of these federal judges who are not elected, they're appointed, the more likely is we're going to see something like 1802 under Jefferson, and we're just going to trash the entire judiciary and start all over again. And they're not going to be very thankful for that, but that's what they're pushing it to. I don't see how
that's fine. That's fine. The federal judiciary doesn't need to exist. It only weakens the system. I mean, this is how we've gotten to where we are now, by layering and adding more layers of bullshit on top of what was pure at one point in time. So start scraping the shit off your shoes and clean your shoes up.
Yeah. So anyway, next one up, U.S. Central Command warned that it will not tolerate any country or entity supporting the Houthis, including offloading ships and providing oil at Houthi-controlled ports. So Donald Trump continues to keep the pressure on the Houthis. Iran has been backing off as fast as they can, trying to distance themselves from the Houthis because they know that the repercussions will be extreme. I don't know if you want to add anything to this one or not, other than it's a piece of good news.
Like I said, I saw the video the other day. Somebody said, what was it? It was a video of them bombing the Houthis. They're standing in a circle. I said, "What do you call this?" And I said, "Dead men walking."
That's good. All right. So another one on China. China's central bank has instructed major state-owned banks to cut back on U.S. dollar purchases, signaling a shift in strategy. This move comes as the U.S. dollar hits its strongest point against the yuan since 2007. As one of the world's largest holders of foreign reserves, China aims to reduce global demand for the dollar, hoping other nations follow suit or that it can diversify into other currencies. China will not tolerate a sharp decline in the yuan. The real economic war is about to begin. This is a total nothing burger to us. Our debt is primarily owned by Americans. I don't know how this false, data point kept getting thrown out that the Chinese own our country because we owe them so much. I haven't looked up the numbers recently, but a few years ago, we're talking somewhere around 3% of our national debt was held in bonds by the Chinese. It may be higher than that now, but it's not what people think it is. It's not like, oh my God, if China, calls everything in, they'll destroy us. Not even freaking close. Not even close. All right, next one up. Anyone with eyes and ears could have recognized Biden's mental decline, but the Democrats chose to turn a blind eye. They put our country at risk for power. 1 minute, 34 seconds. I'm going to play the whole video.
Fox News was saying this. Republicans were saying this. Democrats at every turn denied it, and they excoriated people who dared to suggest that Biden was not fit for office.
The problem is not only was he unfit for office, but we were constantly reassured that he was as sharp as a tack. And when your intelligence at this point is being insulted, just as a person with eyes and ears that could see Biden is clearly not mentally fit to serve another 4 years, let alone even the rest of the presidency, I was concerned. You can't help but to think, why weren't more Democrats coming out to speak up against it? Like, why did they need to put up the facade that he is as sharp as a tack? Because ultimately, all that ended up happening was he ended up stepping down anyway. And now you just lost trust because we see you will put your party over the country, and there's no trust in that.
And if the Democrats are going to gaslight to this extent over Joe Biden, what else can't viewers trust them on?
I'll tell you the worst part of it all. You'd imagine now that it's all said and done, they could take a step back and say, you know what, we were wrong. We'll take accountability for this and we'll admit our faults. But by Adam Schiff going on and giving a Kamala Harris word salad to beat around the bush and act as if they were under control of the situation continues to build distrust in the party. Like, I'm very level-headed as a Republican. I could try to see both sides, but there is no seeing both sides when you are gaslighting the American people. We won't fall for it. And it's going to be hard to regain the trust.
I'll say we have a gaslighter in chief with Donald Trump, but
who
gets a little bit of joy out of it.
Thank you, folks. Good to see you again. All right.
I think we pretty much beat the Joe Biden stuff to death, Stu.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say is that I, to this day, cannot believe that some of our fellow Americans would be dense enough to vote for that guy and think that he was legit. He was never legit, even when he had his marbles. He got kicked out of the 1988 election because he lied about, he put some guy down on camera. I don't know about you, but I graduated with 4 degrees, top of my class from Syracuse, and he graduated at the bottom of his class. He had 1 degree, not 4.
He was a legend in his own mind.
Pathological liar, absolute pathological liar. So anyway, moving on from there. Z can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. America is the #1 economy on earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall. Kevin O'Leary calls for 400% tariffs. Bring it.
104% tariffs in China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Well,
I'm
hold
not
on
talking
a second,
about tariffs.
Kevin. Well, I hear you, but hold on. If we're talking about people, the average consumer, not necessarily the head honchos of businesses all across the globe, can they withstand the pressure of that sort of tax on the goods?
It's short-lived. There will be.
But what's your timeline compared to, you don't know the average American's timeline, what they can actually survive. There's people right now who can't survive.
400% tomorrow morning, cheese on an airplane to Washington to cut a deal.
Yeah, 100%. And that, like I mentioned, we'll buy products from other countries. They are not the only country that manufactures stuff while we're restoring our, manufacturing sector. I don't know. We've said a lot about China. Here's another one. China issues risk alert for Chinese tourists traveling to the United States. Well, there's no alerts. You don't get to travel to the United States unless the CCP says you do. So what this is basically saying is we're going to stop sending people to America right now. Watch what happens when Trump revokes visas for Chinese students, and a gazillion of them get thrown out of the country. That's when
Lord, the left's going to have a fucking meltdown over that.
Big time. It's coming. I'm marking.
It's going to be funny to watch.
Yeah, it will be. But I'm telling you, it's one of the moves that is absolutely coming. Trump's just going to one day say, all right, I'm revoking all the student visas for everybody from China, get out of our country. And he'll let it go through the courts, as I'm sure it will. But
we'll still have to find those illegals that came in.
Right. All right. Next one up. So again, we have all the cards. U.S. considers delisting Chinese stocks amid trade tensions. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has indicated that the delisting of Chinese stocks from the U.S. exchanges is under consideration as part of the ongoing trade tensions between the U.S. and China. The statement was made in response to escalating trade pressures. Various opinions have been expressed on social media, with some advocating for the delisting and others highlighting potential negative impacts on U.S. investors. We hold all the cards. It's that simple.
Yeah, and it's like I said before the show. The next thing that'll happen outside of the tariffs will be sanctions. That's a sanction.
Yeah, exactly. A little piece of good news here. ATF repeals zero tolerance policy amid mixed reactions. I'm not going to read it because I don't have to. Essentially what it was is if an FFL, federal firearms license, so a gun broker, gun seller, retailer, different types of FFLs from manufacturing to retailer and everything in between. If they made one mistake under Biden's ATF, that was it. You lose your FFL. And if you have an SOT, special operating tax for machine guns, things like that, you would lose them all. Poof, done, gone. That is now off the books. It is no longer happening. So small piece.
So now they need to restore all the licenses that were revoked.
Yes, exactly. All right, that's the end of chapter 2. Just a quick shout out to our friends at empshield.com. We're coming into hurricane season. We've had lots of tornadoes across the country, lots of thunder and lightning storms. If you go to empshield.com, you can use the coupon code Survival Dispatch, all one word, or you can click the link in the description below, and you get $50 off of each of these. Even if you don't get hit by an electromagnetic pulse or a coronal mass ejection from the sun, they come with a $25,000 policy to protect you against lightning. And based on our tests, we're the only people who've done this. We built a 400,000 volt Marks generator. We smoked the test bed over and over, like 100 times. Nothing on the test bed was damaged as long as the EMP shield was connected. And as soon as we disconnected it, everything got fried. So if you put one of these on your home, the chances of getting lightning damage are slim to none. But if it did happen, you got a $25,000 coverage from them, and that should more than cover your deductible. So this time of year, EMP shield, good thing to think about getting. All right, moving on from there. We are into chapter 3. So there's some crazy stories, funny stories, and everything in between. First one here. Ukraine is sinking Russian warships with $2,500 drones and no navy of its own. Clear proof that low-cost technology is rewriting the rules of war. China is moving quickly to capitalize on this shift, and the United States cannot afford to fall behind. 27 seconds.
And I think that we've come to a point where we have $2,500 drones that are truly threatening multi-hundred million, if not billion-dollar assets. The ranking member talked about how Russia's Black Sea naval fleet has been in part scuttled by a force that has no navy of its own. Truly remarkable times and incredible threats.
Thoughts on that, S2, since you're into drones?
Yeah, well, you just fly a drone over a ship and drop some thermite on top of it, and it's going to melt a hole in the hull.
That seems so simple, doesn't it? All right.
Yeah.
So is this justified? 7 seconds. I'll probably play it twice just so that you can get full enjoyment out of this.
Absolute correct response.
All right, first audience poll of the night. If you think that that driver was justified in plowing through that line of protesters the way that they did, put a 1 in the chat. If you think they were out of line, put a 2 in the chat. I'm giving it a 1 S2. I agree with you. Totally justified. All right, the next one up. Here we are with Senator Kennedy. Golly, he's funny. This is a good one. It's 30 seconds long.
What do you think of the new leadership, Jasmine, AOC, and Bernie?
I consider Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to be the leader of the Democratic Party. She's entitled to her opinion. I'm entitled to mine. As I've said about her before, I think she's the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle.
No, let it play. Let it play.
Plan for dealing.
You didn't plan that out. We got to hurry.
Our plan for dealing with her is called Operation Let Her Speak.
What do you think of the new?
Oh, he's a national treasure. I love that guy. He's so freaking funny. Holy crap. All right, next one up is captioned, I think he's angry.
Daddy, shut up! Come here. Make the point, please.
Wow. The mental illness going on out there is crazy. So this is pretty funny here. So angry New York residents started throwing trash and feces on pro-Hamas protesters.
This was funny.
20 seconds.
There's one that's going to come up wiping shit off of her face.
That's a log on the front of the car right there. Somebody, if you listen to it really closely, you can hear them commenting, "Oh my God, that's a shit." All right. Your president hired 80,000 IRS agents to audit Americans with $600 in their accounts. My president hired one guy who works for free to audit the corrupt government. We are not the same. Boy, howdy. Ain't that the truth? Oh my God. So here's a prime example of we are not the same. 38-second video of abject mental illness.
Look at my new duck nails, bestie. Giving Lisa Frank realness. Okay, I use the little stickies to stick these on, but when I do these Y2K editions with the charms and stuff, I'm probably gonna use the little glue that they give you, but they give you everything no matter what. They even give you a little file. Oh, how cute are these like little UFO like alien vibes gonna be? There's even like little bumps and everything, girl. These are good quality duck tips. I know they're not for everybody, but they're definitely making a comeback and they're on sale right now in TikTok shop. So drop in the link. Ah!
Whoa.
Please tell me this is going to go away someday.
Not until we bring back asylums. And full frontal lobotomies too, for that matter. All right. Dudes Rock, 18 seconds.
Last sec. Make sure you got time. Yeah. Oh, here it is. Oh! Holy crap! Oh my gosh! Last sec.
We got to watch it twice.
Yeah.
Dude's having fun.
Oh, here it is. Oh!
That's funny right there.
That's good stuff. Good times.
It's something I do. Something I have done.
All right. This is crazy. Speaking of this time of year and the, threat of lightning, check this out. 41 seconds. This is crazy.
Didn't have EMP shield.
Can you imagine if they had been standing in the driveway still? Look at this. So on average, there's around 1 million volts in a lightning strike like that. Highly, not that you can't survive it, but highly unlikely, especially in that type of scenario where there's nothing protecting you at all. All right. Okay. So this is the big audience poll of the night right here. Would you vote for President Trump's third term? If you would vote for Trump again, which would be the fourth time for someone like me, put a 1 in the chat if you would vote for Donald Trump again, which, by the way, he has flat out said he is not joking. He is going to find a way to run for a third term. It's not just to make liberals freak out and laugh at them. So 1, if you would support him in another term. 2, if you'd rather you had AOC, who needs instructions on her hair shampoo.
I'm holding up one finger.
Yeah, same here, 100%. The results are looking fairly encouraging so far. We're pushing out to 7 platforms tonight, monitoring them all here. We got 1, 2 out of them all. That's it so far between 7 platforms. All right, next one up. Democrats are the party of violence. Check this shit out. Lauren Young, a Democrat campaign strategist working on Hillary Clinton's campaign, made a Facebook post suggesting that Iran target President Trump at his home in Mar-a-Lago. The Democratic Party is the party of violence. Look at this. Dear Iran, West Palm Beach. He's on the golf course.
She's just upset because her face is falling off.
Yeah. She looks like she's friggin' high on something, but anyway.
Which one?
Well, they look like they're high. They just smoked a big left-hander together, I think. But either way, or they took a hit off of the hippie hay, as my uncle used to say.
I think Lauren Young should get a visit from the Secret Service.
This stuff here, though, this constant, whether it be tongue-in-cheek or not, discussion around killing Donald Trump and killing Elon Musk is why there were 9 attempts on Donald Trump last year that we know of. 2 highly publicized, the other 7 not so much, and there could have been even more than that. And they're not going to stop. They're going to keep trying to kill him. All right, next one up. From Gunther Eagleman, fuck China. Imagine selling the cheap, toxic junk China does, built on slave labor, flooding the world with cancer-ridden plastics, stealing our ideas. It's it. It's, thank God we've got Trump. He's upending the whole broken system. And I was thinking to myself, as to, we get sent a ton of stuff from companies around the world, and some of it's good, some of it's not so good. Less than 10% actually make it onto our channel for anything. I actually thought to myself, you know what? This might be actually a good thing, so that I can get rid of all this junk that keeps showing up at my door from all these different companies. That's truly, some of the stuff S2, I open it, I look at it, and I go, yeah, I'm not even going to waste it.
Why don't you send it to me and I'll figure out a way to make it better?
Somewhere, I don't know where the heck I put it. I got to find it. This company sent us these pictures, S2, and said, we'd like to send you a couple of our stainless steel knives, pocket knives. And the pictures, the pictures they sent, okay, I'm looking at them thinking, they're interesting design, really clean. I said, okay, whatever, you can send them to if you want. There's no guarantees I'm going to put them on Survival Dispatch. I opened the box, S2. They were this big. It's like, what the fuck is that?
Chinese penis.
So yeah. So they sent me an email and they said, "So when are you going to show our knives on your channel?" And I said, "I'm not going to show the knives."
When you send me a real knife.
Yeah, I was like, "I can't put these in front of our audience," and they're like, "Oh, you bad man! You send them back to us." I'm like, "Whatever." Like they're garbage. So it was just a weird thing. That's all.
Send it by U.S. Postal Service. It'll take a slow boat back to China.
Right. So I don't know how this crazy broad keeps showing up in my stream, but golly, this broad is mentally unhinged. She's got extreme TDS. I'm gonna chalk it up to mental illness and copious amounts of drugs.
That's why it keeps showing up in your stream, because you keep clicking on it.
Well, you have to. I mean, when it looks like this, you have to watch.
Well, the best thing I could do is not be quiet, okay? These fuckers have fucked my life over, and I fuck.
Look at the eyes. Look at those eyes. That is 100% pure
West Virginia meth head.
Unadulterated, crazy cray right there.
Didn't want justice.
Look at that.
God's gonna grant it. Okay, it's gonna take a little time, but God's gonna grant it.
Yeah, that's 100% West Virginia meth head.
Just, I'd say crazier than Cooter Brown, but that would be an insult to Cooter Brown. I mean, golly. All right. So I got an interesting chart here. Let me just get it zoomed in a bit on all of this this lawfare. So district court USAID cuts. The ruling goes the wrong way. Circuit goes the wrong way. Goes to the Supreme Court. We win. Doge Authority, crazy district judge, crazy circuit judge, rule the wrong way. We win when it gets in front of the Supreme Court. Have already won. Deport illegals, enemy aliens act, district court, circuit court make the wrong decision. Supreme Court says we're good to go. District court returning gang members. The circuit calls it judicial, or they shut it down. Judicial tyranny. Goes to the Supreme Court. However, we have 4 now that haven't made it to the Supreme Court. So reinstating employees. I think actually that one did go to the Supreme Court. I think we won that one. I think this chart's off on that. Reinstate board members. Not sure. I'm positive the employee one, though. We won that. Birthright citizenship. District and circuit lost their mind waiting for it to go to the Supreme Court. And DEI grants, that's going to end up in front of the Supreme Court. It doesn't matter what these clowns want or say. This is Article 2. The power lies with the executive, period.
They're just trying to delay the inevitable.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. All right. So, reporter Schumer and Pelosi, they've been talking about tariffs for decades. How come when these Democrat elites want tariffs, everything's honky-dory, but when President Trump wants tariffs, all hell breaks loose? I love this guy, whoever the hell that is. That's Trump speaking about this guy. 54 seconds.
Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they've been talking about tariffs for decades. How come when these Democrat elites want tariffs, everything's hunky-dory, but when President Trump wants tariffs, all hell breaks loose? Do you see this double standard?
I love this guy. Whoever the hell that is. That's really nice. I appreciate that question. No, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, everybody knew you had to do it, but they never had the guts to do it. It does take guts. It even takes guts for our country to go through it. That's why I say be cool. They were saying about, see, just be cool. It's going to work out. It's going to work out. And it's working out. I can tell you, working out maybe faster than I thought. But I said it's going to take a little conditioning. It's a transition to, it's really, I think it's a transition to greatness. It's going to be greatness. Our country is going to be, there'll be nothing like it. And people investing in our country, they're going to do better than they've ever done before.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I'm not sure if you've seen this S2, but there's an entire thread. This is just part of it here. From Z texting Donald, can we talk? Donald, please respond. Oh my God, it's freaking hilarious. Oh, geez, I almost forgot. I've got some memes. Sorry, I clicked out of that too fast. I've got memes to share tonight. I haven't had memes for a while. All right. This is not a meme, though. You know what that is, S2?
That is an LR10.
Yeah. Made out of 100% titanium, special built. So that's General Valley right there, founder and owner of Nemo Arms. Only semi-automatic rifles approved for sniper use in all of our military branches. So what do you think that AR-10 is made of, and how much do you think it cost the person who had them make this one-off gun?
If you say it's titanium.
Yep.
That rifle probably costs in the area, I can't see the whole thing, but I'd say probably in the area of about 10 grand.
55,000. True story.
Okay.
I'll take two. Remember, the people who are against voter ID wanted you to show vaccine papers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're listening, YouTube, fuck you, fuck yourself. A cheap label maker is all you need. That's a key cleaner. Did you know that, Eston? And clearly somebody used it.
I know, right?
You find the dumbest people at work that way. This is American ingenuity at its best. Subaru disguise kit includes 2 Subaru emblems, 1 coexist sticker, 1 Jesus fish sticker, 1 Bernie 2016 sticker, socks and sandals sold separately. So
it's a real thing.
Yeah, if you have a Tesla, that's how
they've got a Honda disguise one too.
Yeah. And obviously this is a silhouette of the Donald. I'm just getting started. I'm going to pull the whole thing down. I'm going to bring the whole fucking disease corrupt temple down on your heads. It's going to be biblical. Oh, I don't know if you noticed this. Amy Coney Barrett. She's got her tattoos last weekend.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday.
Unreal. Huh? Totally unreal. All right, that's all I got for memes. All right, homework wise, what can we do, our audience as well as us, in light of the main topic we discussed on this episode? Number one, when they start shipping product again, you can buy their beer. And actually, the simplest way to help Armed Forces Brewing Company, go to their website and you can sign up as an investor. Like you can buy shares for pennies on the dollar sort of thing and become a part owner. Number two, spread the word. Excuse me. Talk them up to your friends, family, anyone who will listen. Share their story. Military Tribute Brewery had a bunch of veterans on staff. I'm thinking JP for starters. We had him on SDN a couple times. He was a JTAC guy, Air Force guy. And this is baseless hate being directed at them by the people that S2 spends a tremendous amount of time digging dirt on. Show up. If they're going to be hosting events, taproom gatherings when they get relocated, veteran sport nights, anything like that, go if it's close to you. Show them some support. And I've actually, point number 4 is the investing thing. So right now there's over 10,000 people have invested and they put a minimum of $200 in. So if you believe in their mission and the fact that they had the balls to kind of stand up to the woke mob and tell people what's happening, most companies don't do that. We've seen it a bunch of times where companies have just been bullied and they slowly fade away. They don't stand up for themselves. Kudos to these guys for standing up for themselves. Number 5, call out the noise. When you see people trashing them online, if they're lying, call them out on it. And, you've got more information tonight now than anybody else out there has. And last one, number 6, support their partners, groups like the Legion, everything you can imagine, VFA. You could donate, volunteer, anything that fits inside their universe. If you could support, that'd be great. That's all the suggestions I have. S2, do you got anything that you could recommend for our viewers to help Armed Forces Brewing Company?
Well, sadly, I don't drink beer, so I'm not going to be drinking their beer.
Same.
And, as far as spreading the word, I have a hard time talking up people that I haven't had. I'm not trying to be negative here, but, I have a hard time talking up people that I've not spent a lot of time around. However, the investing thing is kind of an attractive thing. You know,
And
it's
that's up on that's up on screen right now.
yeah. So I like the whole investment thing. And like I said, there's not a whole lot more I can say about this. You know, I'm going to do my digging, and I think what we really need to get to the bottom of with this particular subject is why. Why are they doing this to these people? What did they do to them, or what do they perceive that they've done to them that made this town turn on them? I just
Well, I don't know if the town turned on them as much as a vocal group of leftards. You know what I mean? So,
well, again, the question is why. What
100%. What's the motive? Because it could be many things, and it may be more than just one thing. But you're right. What's their true motive? And here's another important aspect of that. If this turns into something like what we encountered with the gun retailers, people need to speak up, because then we'll see it and be able to recognize it and put together a plan to defeat it each time. But all right, that's it for homework. Last mention of patreon.com/survival dispatch or survivaldispatch.news. Why are we running two platforms for our guardians, formerly known as insiders? Patreon's a little bit iffy on sometimes kicking people off their platform. We're not going to stop putting stuff up on Patreon, but if something were to happen there, we have Substack, and Substack actually allows us to do more things than Patreon does. So either way, if you sign up as a guardian, you get content that nobody else gets. You get invited to our private Signal chat. You get the daily situation report. You get to come to our Saturday morning webinars, which are private for guardians only. It's a pretty good deal. S2 can tell you about the element of camaraderie in our private Signal chat. So S2, I'm going to let you speak to the Signal chat, and then you can roll with the conflicted question if you have it handy.
We just talked. We just call each other a bunch of fags and retards.
We have to. I mean, that's
But no, I put information out there, calls to action of things. One of the calls to action right now is we're looking to get Judge Boasberg impeached and going to the Article 3 project. If you go to that website, Article 3 project, you can look it up. It's out there. Go out there and go to their call to action page out there and sign the petition or actually send your senators and your representatives the petition to impeach Judge Boasberg. That's first and foremost right now.
I like it. It's good. There it is right there. Tell Congress to impeach Obama Judge Jeb Boasberg. Let's just be clear. So an impeachment is a black eye. It's a 50+1 vote in the House of Representatives, but to actually convict on an impeachment is a 2/3 supermajority in the Senate, which would be 67 out of 100 votes. It ain't going to happen. So since 1789, 15 federal judges have been impeached, but only 7 of them were convicted and removed. We don't have the votes to get 67, but we can give him a black eye on his record as far as an impeachment's concerned. But we have all these other mechanisms that we've discussed ad nauseum.
The process is the punishment.
Yeah.
The process is the punishment.
All right.
Okay. Moving on to the question.
Take it away.
Hypothetical scenario. The Thompson family, a tight-knit Christian household of 4, parents Mark and Sarah, and their teenage children, Emily and Jacob, live in a small suburban neighborhood. One evening, while the family is at home, a group of 3 armed intruders breaks into their house. The intruders, desperate and agitated, demand money and valuables, threatening violence if the family doesn't comply. Mark, a firm believer in protecting his loved ones, keeps a handgun locked in a safe for emergencies, but he's never had to use it. As the situation escalates, one of the intruders grabs Emily, holding a knife to her throat to force compliance. Sarah pleads with the intruders, praying aloud for peace, while Mark edges towards safe. The family is caught in a tense standoff, unsure if they can de-escalate the situation or if they'll need to fight back to survive. Question. In a home invasion scenario like the Thompsons, where your family safety is at stake, how would you balance the Christian call to turn the other cheek and love your enemies with moral responsibility to protect your loved ones from harm? As a prepper, what practical steps could you take ahead of time, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, to prepare for such a crisis while staying true to your faith? This is a no-brainer.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting timing as well, because this Saturday coming up, the SDN Aftermath session, which is only for Guardians, from 11 a.m. Eastern till 12 noon. The topic is preparing your home defense plan. It's right on point with this question. It's kind of ironic that it came up, but I'm with S2 on this. Here's a couple problems with the way this scenario played out, which it wouldn't play out this way for anybody who had a decent plan. That's for sure. So if you keep a gun in a safe, a pistol in a safe, and somebody has your daughter with a knife to their neck, and you think you're going to shoot that guy with a heart rate of 140, 150 beats per minute, it's not going to happen. And if you take a shot, it's possible you hit your daughter or you hit nobody, but either way, she's probably getting her neck slit, and it's not going to be a good deal. So just like a couple basic things, because I'm going to cover this in depth on Saturday with the Guardians, but you have to fortify your home. You have to harden the target. And many times that will prevent somebody from breaking into your home. So imagine that a bad guy is going down your street, or a couple of bad guys, and they look at a bunch of homes. There's no motion lights on. There's no security cameras. There's no sign guarded by ADT or anything like that. But your house is well lit up at night. You can see the cameras. You can see there's, guarded by whatever security company. You see a steel door, outswing door, like a decorative steel screen door in front of the man door. All of those things, the bad guy's going to go, I'm not going to try and break in there because this place next door has none of those things. I'm going to go to break in there. And, you can do things like put thorny bushes underneath windows. Robolinis are great here in Florida. They've got 3-inch needles full of poison. They'll go through canvas, denim, you name it, leather. And you're not crawling through a Robolini to get through a window sort of thing. So these people should have never gotten home, is what I'm saying. If you fortify enough, you buy time. That's it. I've had people say, oh, well, the person could get around this measure or that measure that you've put in place, not getting the whole concept that putting layers of security in place is about slowing them down to give you time to assess and react without them already being in your home like this. So in this particular instance, I'm going to take issue with, because you're a Christian, you can't do violence to others. Bullshit. I don't interpret the Bible that way. I'm not claiming that I'm a theological genius, but that's not how I interpret the Bible whatsoever. And if you put my family in harm and I have to use deadly force, I don't feel that that's not in congruence with Christian values and beliefs. So I'll leave it at that. I will tell you this: on Saturday morning, we're going to cover a lot of ground on this. If you go back to the insider chat, there's a link where you can go register. You have to register for the Guardian Aftermath sessions on Saturday morning. And you can also go grab the link, or the PDF, I should say, off our website. I will throw both of them in the Signal chat as soon as we wrap up here, just so you guys have them kind of without having to scroll through 1,000 posts. All right, S2, long-winded answer on my part, but I'm done speaking for tonight. It's all you.
Short-winded answer on my part. You fucked up in the first place. You put your gun in your safe.
Yep.
That's one thing. Secondly, to deny is to delay. Put enough obstacles, like you said, in between the outside and the inside. Put enough deterrence out there that slows them down. If you hear something, then you have a chance to react, but you have to have a plan to get your family to safety. I'm in a position right now where I'm within basically arm's reach of two firearms if I needed to, and I'm sitting right by my front door. If anybody was to come through that front door, it's going to be a bad day for them.
I've got guns stacked up around me. I've got I'm surrounded by ARs, PCCs, pistols. Every last thing in here is loaded.
Well, like I said, where my office is not by accident.
I love it. Did you hear about that guy? I want to say it was like a year ago, S2, where he had guns stashed in every room, which we do the same thing. People don't know where they are. And he went to the restroom and he's sitting in there and he hears somebody breaking in, and sure enough, the bad guy comes into the restroom and he's already waiting. He's sitting on the throne, but he's got a pistol in his hand. The guy poked his face and he got PID on him, so positive ID, and gave him high-speed lead poisoning while he was sitting on the throne.
That's some
guy
shit right there.
That's a guy who knows how to defend his home right there. Hats off to him on that. All right, let's see. So, oh, sorry, go ahead, Destiny.
At least he didn't have to worry about filling his drawers.
Yeah, that's a great position to be in, right? We'll be back tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's discussion is going to be the Muslim invasion of the Western world. And there's a very specific reason we need to pay super close attention to what's going on in the UK. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag tonight. Most of the Guardians already know what I'm referring to. But we're going to talk what's happening in the UK, and we're going to talk what's happening in America to a large extent. And if we don't rescue these two countries, our country and culture, plus the British, and you know what? I don't know if there's that much love lost between us and the British, at least at the government level these days, but we will have to rescue them from what's happening over there, or we'll end up getting destroyed in the process. And if you want to know why, you got to tune in to Survival Dispatch News tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern on all of the usual platforms. Other than that, that's it. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America, and enjoy the closing video.
Hoorah.
Let's tell a story about one of the greatest psyops in history. The psyop that you deserve less and less every year, and that you should work harder and harder for less and less. The psyop that to be broke was the American way. The psyop that you should be lucky to pay your bills. The psyop that it's normal for prices to go up every year, forever. The psyop that it's normal to pay taxes. When you're born, death and taxes are the only certainty they would tell you. The psyop that you need to make $80,000 a year to take care of your family, then $100,000, and then $150,000. Now they tell you both you and your wife need to work to achieve financial freedom. So you hire the nannies, you hired the babysitters, you leave your community. You just don't have time for them anymore, because you and your wife embarked on individual careers, these careers that took you away from your kids, your spouse, your home, your community, and they told you this was normal. It's totally normal to spend 2/3 of your time away from your family. It's normal to fight and get divorced, and it has nothing to do with the economic decisions and policies made by the government. None of it was normal. It was all nefarious. And it chipped away at what it meant to be an American. It chipped away at your self-esteem. It chipped away at your marriage, at your family, until you looked up and one day no one was married anymore. No one was succeeding unless they were heavily leveraged. One day you woke up and realized you don't recognize the world around you. Until Trump. President Trump came along and said, "This is your country, and that's your money." And he wouldn't back down. All the people that were destroying you came out and spoke against him. They went to great lengths to undermine his agenda. When President Trump hit his stride in 2019, they released a biological weapon that was the largest psyop in global history. COVID. They ran the scamdemic. They extorted trillions of dollars out of your economy. Then they stole your election overtly, hijacked your democracy, put up barbed wire fencing around your capital, and told you it was normal. During the next 4 years, they would unleash an invasion the likes of which no nation had ever seen. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of illegals poured in the United States of America and began gobbling up whatever remaining resources were in existence. You were deemed a domestic terrorist by those in power. They surveilled your phones, your computers. They surveilled your lives, but it wasn't enough to stop Donald Trump. When they couldn't undermine his campaign through the courts and lawfare, they eventually tried to kill him, again and again and again, until that fateful day in November, when President Trump and America reclaimed their sovereignty. With him, he brought the richest man on the planet, for free, named Elon Musk. They then began uncovering and publicizing all of fraud, theft, waste, and abuse of the American taxpayer. They have threatened him, They have threatened his family. Subversion is all they have left. Infiltration is all they have left. Their funding is drying up. This is your Liberation Day.